Okay, hello and welcome to today's lecture for CS 303. So today will be the last lecture for this particular chapter on memory management. Okay, in particular, in today's lecture, we will be talking about another memory management technique called segmentation, and then the second half of the session we will be looking at some real life operating systems and sort of seeing how they perform memory management. Okay, so we'll see that whichever techniques we have discussed in this chapter, all of them follow one technique or the other, either only one technique or a mixture of techniques. Okay, so once again we have two topics for today. First is another memory management technique called segmentation, and then in the second half we look at how some of the popular operating systems perform memory management. Okay. Okay, now I am on slide 2. And now we start our discussion on segmentation. So segmentation means essentially the idea here is that the memory requirements of a program, we divide it into variable sized segments. So that is the general idea. So we have up till now which techniques have we discussed for memory management. First technique was contiguous memory allocation, where we the main concept there is whatever memory requirement a process may have, we try and allocate one and only one block of physical memory for that, right? So because of fragmentation issues, we discussed that was not a very good idea. And then we talked about paging. So in paging, what we do is we divide both virtual and physical memory into equal sized chunks or parts. So the virtual memory for virtual memory, each part is called a page. For physical memory, it's called a frame. Right. So the idea there is for each virtual page we need to map it to a physical frame. So we saw how using a page table we can do that, and various kinds of design issues and things in that. So if we look at think about this paging technique, so we say that the paging technique looks at memory as a large linear array of bytes. So we have an extremely large array of bytes, right, as we had discussed. So each byte is directly addressable. So we have, what we have is we have a sequence of memory locations, and each location addresses one byte. So that is the level of granularity that we have. We can access individual bytes, whether they are instructions or program or data, right? So some bytes contain instructions, other contain data. So once again, memory is looked at a large linear array of bytes. Okay. So this concept of memory may be abstract to users or programmers. So when I'm when I'm writing if I'm a application developer and I'm writing a program or I'm building an application, so naturally I have to look at the memory requirement part of it. So when I'm looking at memory, thinking about memory as an extremely large array of byte may be a bit inconvenient, may be a bit abstract. Okay. From the programmer's point of view, it may be better to think of memory as rather than as a large array of bytes, as a collection of segments or parts. Okay. And each segment or part can have variable size. So the programmer is coding a program. That program will have various components in it, and for each component there will be a corresponding physical memory segment. So these segments can be of variable sizes. Okay. So with no necessary ordering among them. Okay. So consider a program. To a programmer it contains, for example, a main function, of course the driver, with a set of other functions that it calls. Other parts of the program could be certain data structures which are used, like a stack or queue, right? And you can have variables, you can have libraries, simple tables and so on. So each program has can be naturally divided into these parts, right? Main function, data structures, variables, libraries. So the idea is, for each part we have a particular segment in physical memory. Okay. So all of these parts can be segments stored at certain locations. Each segment has its own size. And elements within a segment are identified by their offset from the beginning of the segment. So once you have a segment, how do you identify individual bytes? So you can say first statement in the program, seventh stack frame entry, fifth instruction in the square root function. So you have a starting address for each segment, and then you can go down and apply the offset to get to the individual byte that you need, right? So again we have addressing, but the idea here is, now instead of pages, so what's happening in paging is we're taking a chunk of memory, dividing it into equal size pages, right? Whole memory, right? And then each process uses those pages, those frames. In segmentation, what we are saying is, for each part of a process we have different segments allocated. We may have different segments allocated to it. So this process needs 3 segments of size ABC. Another process needs 5 segments of size MNOPQ, right? Something like that. So that is a general idea of segmentation. Okay. So from programmer's point of view, it's a bit more convenient to think about segmentation. Okay. So this is an alternate memory management technique. So now I am on slide 3, and here we see a programmer's view of a program, right? So what we have now is our logical address space is now a collection of segments, right? So here we are seeing the programmer's view for a particular program, right? So we have our main, our driver function. We have a symbol table used by the compiler. We have a square root function. We have a stack that perhaps stores function calls. So perhaps you're doing a recursive function. You're calling the recursive function again and again repeatedly, and every time you call it, you are for every function call you have an entry in the stack, and then you have other subroutines also. Okay, so what we are seeing is, from a programmer's point of view, her or his program can be thought of as a collection of parts, different parts that interact with each other. So segmentation supports this. Segmentation is a memory management scheme that supports this ideology. So each of these will be assigned to a segment. Okay. Okay, so now I am on slide 4, and now as you can see, as you can guess, this is what's happening. We have our user space, right? And for each part of their program, we allocate a segment in physical memory. So these are the 4 parts, right? And for each part we allocate a segment of specific size. So note that the size of the segments can be variable. So they are not fixed size segments. The size of the segments can be variable to sort of control the fragmentation. If all segments were of the same size, we would run into serious segmentation problems. Okay. So this is the general idea of segmentation. For each part of your program, right, in the user space or in the for virtual space, we allocate one specific physical segment, right? And then using that we do our address translation. So note how this is different from paging. In paging what happens is the unit in which we are assigning physical memory is in the unit of pages and frames. So they are much smaller, right? And they are in the allocation of memory is in units of pages and frames. So then for a process, for each virtual page we have a corresponding frame. We make an entry in the page table, and then whenever that logical address is generated, we look up the page table, we get the physical address, and then we do the mapping, and then we access the, for each virtual address we access the corresponding physical address. Okay, so the memory accesses are done and memory allocation is done in chunks of pages and frames. Here memory allocation is done in terms of segments which are generally larger. Okay, so there are different memory allocation techniques. Okay, so now I am on slide 5, a bit more about how this segmentation will work. So segmentation is a memory management scheme that supports this programmer's view of memory as we talked about, right? Each logical address space is a collection of segments, right? I'm sorry, a logical address space is a collection of segments, right? So what exactly will you have in your logical address space? You'll have all the processes that want to run. So any program, any process that wants to run will be stored, let's say, on the disk. So that disk is your logical address space. So what we're saying is that logical address space is divided into a collection of segments. Okay, each segment has a name, number, and a length. Okay, so you can access segments using a name, number, and then you also have a length. So now in this segmentation scheme, what does each logical address consist of? Right, so in paging what we had was each logical address had two parts, which were P and D, page number and offset. So here in segmentation, each logical address consists of a tuple of two elements, segment number and comma offset. Okay, segment number, comma offset. So we'll soon see using an example. And we also know that clearly we need a mapping between the logical and physical addresses. So this mapping here is done using a segment table. Okay, so just like we had a page table in the previous case, here we have a segment table. So what does a segment table contain? The segment table is an array of base and limit pairs. Okay, base and limit pairs. So each entry has two values, base and limit, right? What exactly do these contain? So the segment base contains the starting physical address where the segment lives within the physical memory. So wherever you allocate the segment, the starting physical address is stored in the segment base. Segment limit contains the length of the segment. So compiler automatically constructs the segments upon compiling and also assigns the segment number. Yeah. So for each part of your program, a particular segment is assigned, and then an entry is created in the segment table. Right. Each entry has a starting physical address where the segment lives and the length of the segment. So now let's see how the address translation happens here in segmentation. Okay, so now I am on slide 6, and now let us see how the address translation happens. So as with paging, our objective is the same. For a particular virtual address, we have to map, or we have to generate the corresponding physical address, right? So same goal here also. So CPU generates a virtual address, and here the virtual address, as we mentioned, consists of two parts, S, which is a segment number, and D, which is an offset into that segment. So just like in the previous case, we had P, which was page number, D was an offset, right? Here we have segment number, and which is S, and an offset into that segment, which is D. Okay. So now what happens is, given the logical address, we have to extract the S and D parts. So we extract the S part, that is the segment number. So we can have certain number of bits for that. So once we extract the segment number, we use that segment number S as an index into the segment table. So for example, if segment number is 0, we look at the first entry in the segment table. If segment number is 1, we look at the second entry in the segment table, so on and so forth. Okay. So given the logical address, we extract the segment number from it, and we use that segment number as an index to look into the segment table. So we will find a match, right? Provided that mapping has been done already, virtual to physical. So once we find the match, we look at the corresponding entry, because S is the index. So looking at the corresponding entry, we get the values of limit and base. Okay. So base is the base address of that segment. So we can say, let's say segment 0, the starting physical address for that is 1000, right? So we know that, we know where we have to start looking, and the only other thing we need to know is now the offset for accessing the individual byte. So same usage as it was in paging, right? So we have a page size of 4K. So to represent a page size of 4K, we need how many bits? We need 12 bits. So using 12 bits, we can access 2 raised to 12 bytes of memory, or 4K of memory, and we can access each and every individual byte within that 4K of memory. So same is the concept of offset over here. Once you get the base address, you just have to add the offset to it, and you get your individual byte that you are looking for, and in the physical address, right? So you take the base address, add the offset to it, you got the physical address that you want. One thing which you have to do, we have to check whether the value for D is legal, because the memory system may only give a certain size for your segment, although segments can shrink and reduce. So one check which you have to perform is that D has to be less than the limit. Okay, because this segment limit specifies the length of the segment. So if limit is 10 and your offset is 15, you want to access the 15th byte, that's not happening. Yeah, so this is the size of the segment in bytes, or kilobytes, or MB. Okay, so once again I repeat, what we do is, given the logical address, we extract the segment number, we use it as an index into the segment table, and then we get a base physical address. We take our offset, we check whether the offset is less than the limit, so within the bounds. If it is not, we give an addressing error saying we are trying to access a byte for which memory has not been allocated. So this is what you may mean by segmentation fault. You are trying to access a byte within a segment for which memory has not been reserved. Okay, so maybe you have to go back and increase the size of the segment and again compile it. So provided D is within bounds, D is within the limit, we add it to the base and we get the physical address. Okay. So base address, let's say 1000, and then byte 4, 1004. Okay. So we will soon see an example also. Okay, so this is how address translation happens in segmentation. Okay, I hope it's clear. Okay, so now I am on slide 7, and now we look at some concrete examples. Okay. So here what we see is for a particular program, the same program we were discussing earlier. We have, how many segments do we have? We have 5 segments, and we name them from 0, so not 1. So we have segment 0, segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, and segment 4. Each of them corresponding to different parts of the program. For each segment, we have a pair of base and limit values. Base is the base address for that segment, limit is the length of the segment in terms of bytes or kilobytes or whatever, right? So now how do we do a lookup? So let's say we want to reference byte 53 of segment 2. So what we will have is our address will have 2 components, and using number of bytes, right? It's a binary thing. So from that we can extract the segment number and the byte, the offset. Right. So let's say once we have extracted and converted to decimal, the segment number is 2 and the offset is 53. So we see segment 2. We use 2 as an index into the segment table, and what is the starting address of this segment? 4300. Right, 4300. And the length is 400, so it goes from 4300 to 4700. Right. So now reference to byte 53, and we see 53 is less than 400 within bounds, and then we it is, so we add it to 4300 and we get 4353. So that is our physical address. So you can see address translation is very simple. Right? We don't have a extremely large number of pages to contend with, because in the page table paging mechanism we saw the size of a page table can be huge, 2:20. Here the segment size is larger, so at least in terms of entries it's not that much. Reference to byte 852 of segment 3. So if the segment for the next logical address, segment number is 3 and offset is 852. So segment 3 starting address is 3200. 852 is well within 1100. So 3200 plus 852, 4052. Third, byte 1222 of segment 0. So segment has been extracted from the logical address, segment number is 2 and offset is 1222. So for segment 0, base address is 1400. Now 12222 is more than 100. Right? So which obviously means this is out of bounds. Segment is not big enough. We've got our segmentation error. So address error trapped to the operating system. So in this way we can easily look up the corresponding physical address for every virtual address. So processes, we are given the virtual address, the appropriate MSBs, most significant bits, are for the segment number which we extract, and then the appropriate LSBs, least significant bits, are for the offset. Once we have that, we use the segment number as an index into segment table. We get the base address, check whether the byte we're looking for is valid within the range of the within the size of the segment. If it is, we simply add it to the base and get the appropriate physical address. So once again, addressing is happening at the granularity of 1 byte. So one memory location corresponds to 1 byte. So in this way we can have address translation in segmentation. Okay, so now I am on slide 8, and this is just an enlarged picture from the previous slide, which is showing how using segmentation we can do a translation between logical addresses and physical addresses. Right. So once again, to recap, we from the logical address we extract the segment number and the offset, we use the segment number to as an index into the segment table, right? And from there we get the base address of the base physical address where that segment is stored, right? And then we add the offset to get the desired byte that we need in physical memory. And of course we check whether the offset is within the limit or the size of that segment or not. If it's not, we generate an addressing error. Okay. Okay, so in the last slide we saw how a virtual to physical address translation happens in segmentation. Right. So one thing we will note about this segmentation is that both the logical address space and the physical address space is now divided into segments and not pages and frames. In the paging case, what happened was the logical address space was divided into fixed size pages, and the physical address space was divided into fixed size frames. Right. So what in segmentation, what we have is the logic. So note that in segmentation, both the logical address space and the physical address space are divided into segments. So as you would have noted in the previous slide where you showed the picture, on the left the image had the logical address space with 5 segments for a process, and then physical memory showed where the mapping happened. So naturally each logical segment has to be mapped to physical address range. Okay, right. So each logical segment, whether it's subroutine or main program or symbol table or stack or square root function, it has to be mapped into a corresponding physical space. Right. So do note we have segments on both logical and physical address spaces. So one way we can look at it is if as far as paging is concerned, there the virtual memory, right, or the logical memory can be looked at as one dimensional, right, because it goes from 0 address to some maximum address, one address after the other. So the virtual memory or the logical memory and even the physical memory, they are one dimensional. So virtual memory is one dimensional, starting from 0 going to any other maximum address. So what happens is for each process we assign, it has a logical address space. So we may say for this process, this address space has been allotted to you contiguously. Okay. It's only when the address translation happens that we allow the frames to be allotted non-contiguously. So within the virtual memory we have the address the virtual address space, right. Now the problem is the different parts of the process, they may shrink or grow. Okay, which means they will start to bump into each other. So which is the problem with this one dimensional address space, which segmentation handles, because in segmentation, in the logical address space, in the virtual address space, we have multi-dimensional scheme. So we have separated out the segments, and each of those segments can grow or shrink independently. Of course, it's possible that a segment is totally used up, but if we are smart about it, that will not happen too often. So in segmentation, each segment can grow and shrink independently. Okay, so you have less likelihood of them bumping into each other. So that is one you can say advantage of segmentation. Okay, one advantage of segmentation. So in the paging case, what happens is the virtual memory is one dimensional, one address after the other. It's a large linear array of bytes. So which means different parts of the process can bump into each other when they shrink or grow, right? Whereas in segments, what you have is each of the parts of your program, they sort of have independent address spaces, right? So in segments, each segment is an independent address space, so they can grow and shrink accordingly. So that is one advantage for segmentation. Of course, the problem is now we run into similar problem that we encountered in contiguous memory allocation, because your fragmentation, your segments can be of different sizes. So your fragmentation problem again comes back. So you need to use first fit, best fit. So again that's why I said there's no clear answer as to which is better. So segmentation is better in terms of allowing parts of the program to grow and shrink without bumping into each other. It's a multi-dimensional address space, but the cost you have to pay for that is increased fragmentation. So we have external fragmentation, whereas we know in paging we don't have any fragmentation, external fragmentation at least. Okay. So essentially what you can say is for paging the advantages are it minimizes fragmentation, and you can keep parts of a process in memory. So your page table, if you're only using some parts of that process, we'll learn more about it in next chapter. So only those entries of the page table can be activated. So allowing you to keep part of a process in memory, right? Whereas in segmentation, you have to bring the whole segment in. Okay. Advantages of segmentation: intuitive model for programmers, better with dynamically going process parts, but fragmentation problem is there. So as you can see, there is no clear answer as to which one is better. So real systems use both, or maybe even a combination. So naturally, when people thought, segmentation has its pros and cons, paging has its pros and cons, can we combine both of them together? So that was the option chosen by Multics OS. So Multics OS was invented at MIT in 1969, inspired from concepts of the Unix operating system, TLB caches, the cloud, and so on. So here they have combined segmentation and paging. What does that mean? It means they support segments, but each segment is made up of pages. Okay. So this is generally now the idea taken by most modern operating systems. That the basic idea is the logical memory is composed of segments. Each segment is composed of pages. Okay. So we get the idea. We support segments, but each segment is paged. So to sort of tackle the fragmentation problem, right? So for large segments, not desirable to keep them whole of them in main memory. Idea is to page segments, so keep only the pages that are needed. So for as we keep giving an example, if you're using Microsoft Word, do you need to bring the code of the whole process in? Well, no, actually you don't. So the idea is to try to figure out which part you need and then bring only that part of the code from disk to memory. So with the for paging, what it boils down to is only the pages that are needed are brought in, rest of them are not brought in. Okay. So for each page table, you can have an entry whether the page is resident in physical memory or whether it's not resident in physical memory. Using one bit, you can denote that. Okay. So here the virtual memory was composed of segments, 2^18 of them, right? Each segment was up to 64K maximum size, and each segment was paged. Okay, each segment was paged. Okay, so this was for Multics, combining paging with segmentation. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here I'm on slide 11 now, and we are showing the memory management for Multics operating system. Right. So here what we are, as we just said, it uses a combination of segmentation and paging. So we say that each Multics program, right, each process in Multics had a segment table, and with one descriptor per segment. So you have a number of segments, right, and for each segment you have a corresponding descriptor, right. So you have segment table, one entry per segment with a descriptor there. So note that because the number of segments itself is huge, 2 raised to 18, so that's about 250,000. So segment table was also paged. So something similar to what we discussed in hierarchical paging. What is the significance of this descriptor? Each descriptor contained a pointer addressed to the page table for that segment. So we just said that each segment is paged, right? Which means whatever the size of the segment is, it's broken down into pages. So the descriptor contains the address to the page table for that segment. And descriptor also contains other pieces of information like segment size, other bits as well, which we won't get much into. So in Multics, the virtual address had 3 components now. So you can see if we add up how many bits in the virtual address, 18 and 6, 24 and then 34 bits. So first 18 MSBs were the for the segment number, then 6 bits for the page number, finally 10 bit for the offset. Now which seems to suggest that page size is 1K. So address lookup is as follows: get the segment number, extracting the 18 bits, appropriate 18 bits, and look once you get the segment number, look in the segment table and get the descriptor. Now you have the address for the page table. So locate the page table and get the appropriate page table entry, PTE. So how do we get the PTE or page table entry? From the page number. So we use page number as an index into the page table, like we have been doing all along in paging, and then we get the physical frame address, basic address, and then we add we add the offset to it, right? We add the offset to it, and then we get the physical address. So once again, take the 18 bits, get the segment number, right? Look up in the segment table, get the segment descriptor, locate the page table, and finally look up in the page table, get the starting physical address, add the offset, get the complete physical address. So here you can see how paging plus segmentation is being used by Multics. Okay. Okay, so now I am on page number 12, and now we move on to our second case study. So this is for the Intel Pentium chips, which are probably extinct now, but I think they were being used till at least till 2011. Okay, so these chips started being produced by Intel in 1993, and they continued all the way till 2011. So about 18 years. Okay, so of course now we have Intel i3, i5, i7, and so on. So let's look at how this Intel Pentium processor architecture, what kind of memory management scheme did this Pentium support. So here first thing we note is that we used, or this Intel Pentium architecture, it used pages of two different sizes. So one thing we need to discuss, what is the ideal page size, or let me rephrase the question. Should we have a small page size or a large page size? So once again, there is no true answer, or no clear answer. With a small page size, what you gain is you really reduce the internal fragmentation. Because if you recall, we had discussed, can we have external fragmentation in paging? The answer is no. But we noted that we can have internal fragmentation. And what was the worst case? That for one particular process we allocate, we have just one byte remaining. So, so for that we have to allocate a fresh page, fresh frame, right? And besides that one byte, rest of it is going to be wasted to internal fragmentation. So the worst loss that we can have is that of one page, one frame. So if the page size is small, if the frame size is small, that internal fragmentation is minimized. So for example, if it's the size is 4K versus size is 4M, right? So naturally, minimizing internal fragmentation seems to argue for a small page size. Okay. Whereas, so that is one good point. Another issue with so one issue with small page sizes, then what happens to the number of entries in the page table? So you need to have one entry per page. So for the same amount of memory, if you have more pages, so which means your page tables will have more entries on an average. So size of the page table will increase. You will need more space for it, and for particular process you will probably be doing more mappings. So note that every time you do a mapping of a virtual to physical, that takes some cost, especially if you have to look at memory twice, if the mapping is not present in your cache. So with a smaller page size, you'll end up doing more mappings, so that overhead will be more. Whereas if you look at large page size, the number of page table entries will be small, page tables will be smaller, easier to manage, but fragmentation can be more, right? So related issue is it's hard to predict the memory patterns of processes. When I open up Microsoft Word, the operating system has no way of knowing whether I just want to print a document or whether I want to do some typing, whether I want to create a table, whether I want to do a spell check, what exactly do I want to do, right? So the operating system has to, if it can find ways to predict which parts of the process are needed, that will really help, right? So therefore what this Intel Pentium does is it uses two page sizes, 4 KB and 4 MB. So what is a 4 MB page used for? It may be used for as it says, large kernel data structures. So let's say if I have to bring the OS in, so I already know I have to bring a part of the OS in every time the machine is booted up, and I know that part of the OS is, let's say 512 MB or 1 GB. I know the size will be roughly similar. So then when I know the size of the process or part of the process I want to bring in, if it's more or less fixed, then I can always have large page size, right? So I have large page size, so I'll need a smaller number of pages, smaller number of frames, and my page table size will reduce. This management will become easier. Okay, right? When I don't know what my requirement is going to be, then I can use small page sizes, right? So generally when I have fixed requirements, then the large size can be used. So when I know that this 512 MB has to be brought in every time, so might as well go for a large page size. So the every time you bring in a page, and every time you map it to a frame, that's an overhead. So if I have a large page, that overhead will be reduced. Okay. So because I know that this OS, this process is going to be large. If my process is only the size of my process is 20K, it's a small process, and I use a 4 MB page, then even with one page I'm doing a lot of wastage. Whereas if I use a 4 KB page, I'm much better off. So for small processes and for processes with not predictable how much I need to bring in, I can use a 4K. So therefore Pentium, because of the pros and cons of small and large page sizes, it supports two sizes, 4 KB and 4 MB. It uses a two-level page table, which we have already discussed, right? Hierarchical two-level page table. So what it has is for the address, the 10 highest order bits refer to an entry in the outer page table. And the outer page table, here Intel calls it as page directory. So we had in that two-level paging, we had an outer page table, and then which pointed to multiple inner page tables which were located non-contiguously. So 10 highest, so here's the address given, 0 to 31, 32-bit address. Highest 10 order bits map to the outer page table. 10 bits, so which means that page directory has how many entries? 2 raised to 10. Same as the example we discussed. So the example that we discussed was actually for the Intel Pentium chip. Okay. The CR3 control register for virtual memory points to the page directory for the current process. So the CR3 register points to that page directory, outer page table. And of course the outer page table or page directory points to inner page table, which is indexed by the next 10 bits. Right, next 10 bits, just like before. So we have 2 raised to 20 bytes, and so we are chopping it down into, we're chopping that page table down into chunks of 2 raised to 10 entries, and we have 2 raised to 10 such chunks. So this is the exact example that we discussed in our two-level paging. Okay. Finally, the last 12 bits provide the offset in the page. So 12 bits means 2 raised to 12 is 4K. Now if you want to use a 4 MB, right, if you want to use a 4 MB, the inner page table is bypassed. So which means you have 32 minus 12, 20 bits, and you can do the calculation using 20 bits. You can access 2 raised to 20 or 4 MB of memory. So if your page size is 4K, you're using two-level paging. You have a page directory, you have an inner page table. If you're using a single level page table, then the inner page table is bypassed. Okay, inner page table is bypassed, and then you have your offset will be of, what will be the offset? So looks like it will not be, it looks like it will be 22. So when I say, let me just do a quick calculation. 2 raised to 22. So when I am seeing it over here, yeah, 2 raised to 22, I am getting 4 MB, 4194304. So which means if you're using a 4K page table, you have two-level paging, just like we discussed. Outer page table 10 bits, inner page table 10 bits, offset 12 bits. When you're using a 4 MB page size, then the offset will be, of course it will increase, it will be 22 bits now, and page number is 10 bits. So 22 bits for the offset and 10 bits for the page number. So you can have 2 raised to 10 such pages. Okay. So address is 1022 for page directory and page table. a logic for using multiple page sizes to address the TLB reach. So TLB reach means how much memory can you access using TLB. So it is given by number of entries into page size, right? So if I have 10 entries and my page size is 4K, then I can access 4K into 10. So here if I am increasing the page size, obviously I am increasing my TLB reach. Okay. How much memory I can access from the TLB. So this is slide 13. This is just the same picture in a larger and large format. And you can see the logical address is 32 bits. Hierarchical 2-level paging is used, 10, 10 and 12, going from left to right. And we also have the option of a 4 MB page as well. 4 MB the address will be 10 bits for the page number, 22 for the offset. Okay. So this is how Intel Pentium does paging. So now I am on slide 14, and now we look at the Intel x86 64-bit architecture. Okay, Intel x86, right? Intel x86, right? 64-bit. So called x86-64. Okay. So original specification was created by AMD, a company raised in 2000, and since then it's been implemented by AMD, Intel and VIA. Okay. So here, this is the current generation Intel x86 architecture. So here this is 64 bits. Ginormous means very large. So you can access 16 exabytes using this, which is huge, really huge, right? Really huge. 1 exabyte is 10, 1000 petabytes. So more than 16 exabytes can be accessed. General systems don't have that much memory. So maybe for the future. So in practice, where the 64 bits are not needed, it uses 48-bit addressing. And the address for this processor architecture is given here. Here you can see 48 bits are being used. Okay. So offset, as you can see, 12 bits. Then page table, page directory pointer table, page map level 4, and so on. So we can have page sizes of so a lot of bits at our disposal here. So we can support different page sizes. We can support 4 KB, we can support 2 MB, we can even support 1 GB. Right? We have that many bits. Okay. So 4 levels of paging hierarchy, which is given over here, right? So support for 64-bit address space yields an astonishing 2 raised to 64 bytes of addressable memory, a number greater than 16 exabytes. Yes. However, in practice, far fewer than 64 bits are used in the current designs. So current x86 64 architecture provides 48-bit virtual addresses with support for page sizes of 4 KB, 2 MB, or even 1 GB, using different levels of paging hierarchy. Okay. So even up till 1 GB can be supported. So maybe if you are downloading an operating system, size of the operating system is couple of GBs. Size of the OS is also increasing now with more and more features being added. So perhaps 1 GB could be a good size there. Okay. So this is the Intel x86 64. So now I am on the last slide. So here we talk about the ARM architecture. Right. ARM architecture is also very popular. Right. And let's now discuss this. So incidentally, Apple has licensed the ARM design for its iPhone and iPad mobile devices, as well as several Android-based smartphones. They also use ARM processors. So generally, you can say it's very popular with the phones and tablets, those kind of devices. So dominant target mobile platform chip for Apple iOS and Google Android, right? So modern energy efficient 32-bit CPU, and here we have support for 4K and 16K pages, okay, and also for 1 MB and 16 MB pages. So what you see in most modern systems is, because there are pros and cons to having large and small page sizes, so generally they have support for both small and large page sizes. So wherever you have large processes that need to be brought in and their size is fixed, you can use a large page size. Otherwise, use a small one. Okay. So these large page sizes are also termed as sections to distinguish them from the conventional pages of 4K and 16K. Okay. One level paging for sections, two level for smaller pages. So naturally, one advantage of large page sizes is now the number of entries in the page table reduces. Right. Number of entries the page table will reduce. With 32-bit and 4K page size, your page table entries will be 2 raised to 20. Right. If the page size is 4 MB, 22 bits, then only 2 raised to 10. So for 4K, you need 2 raised to 20 entries in the page table. For 4 MB, you need 2 raised to 10 entries in the page table. Huge reduction. Right. 2 raised to 10 versus 2 raised to 20. 2 raised to 10 is just 1024. 2 raised to 20 is over a million. Okay. So naturally, with large pages, the page table size reduces, and when the page table size reduces, you don't need hierarchical paging. Single level paging is enough. You can easily find memory to store the whole page table in a contiguous locations. Okay. So that's why we say one level paging for sections, two level for smaller pages. Okay. So two levels of TLBs are also used for speeding up the address translation. Outer level has micro TLBs, 2 micro TLBs. Inner has single main TLB. So even within the TLB, there is more hierarchy, inner and outer level. So inner one is more faster, which also means that the amount is the size of that would be smaller than the outer TLB. So the translations which are extremely popular, you can put them in the inner TLB, and ones which are a bit less popular, still popular, you can put them in the outer TLB. So first inner TLB is checked. On miss, outer TLB is checked, and if you have a miss in the outer TLB also, where do you go? That means, of course, you have to walk through the page table and have to look at main memory. So you can see 34 bits offset, and then inner page and outer page for the two level paging. So you can have 4 KB and 16 KB pages. 4 KB your offset will be 10. 16 KB it will be. So 16 is 16 into 2 raised to 10, so 14. Okay. So there, for both of these cases, you will require two levels of paging. Large pages you can use 1 MB or 16 MB. There you just need one level. Okay. So this is the ARM architecture. Okay. So this brings us to the end of this chapter. And what we have seen in this chapter are a couple of things which I would just quickly summarize. First is the difference between virtual address space and logical address space. Traditionally, virtual address space is much larger, 1 terabyte. Physical address space is much smaller, 4 GB perhaps. So, and then we see that we saw that to run a process, it has to be brought into memory. So, which means we need to map all the virtual addresses in that process to proper physical addresses, and we have to do that mapping. So that was what we learned, and then we saw different kind of memory management techniques, contiguous memory allocation, and then we saw paging, and then we saw segmentation. And finally, we looked at case studies of many operating systems, what kind of memory management techniques they use. So we looked at Multics, we looked at Intel Pentium, we looked at Intel x86-64, and we looked at ARM. Okay, so now we should have a pretty good idea of how the operating system does memory management. So main goal over here of the OS is for each virtual address map it to a valid physical address. How does it pick the physical frame? We will look at that in the next chapter. So it has to map each virtual address to a physical address, and then it has to take care of maintaining the page table, because that eventually contains the mapping. And then at runtime, for each virtual address that's generated, we generate the relevant physical address, and then we can proceed with our access of that physical memory. Because remember, the all the instructions and data were processed, they have to be brought into physical memory before they can execute. Okay, so with this we end chapter number 8, and next chapter which we will cover is chapter number 9, which is virtual memory management. Okay, so there it will be more about the virtual side of things. Okay.